Okay, lesson number 6. Joseph's brothers come to buy corn. As we look at this lesson, and we started when he was a young feller back several years before, and how he had the dreams, and we're kind of seeing through our literal eyes at how the dreams that he had, the two dreams that he had, is kind of falling together, and God's working to get to that point. Now, however, God has already worked, but as things were going along, we might not have been able to see that as much as we're starting to see what's taking place now. And so, but God works behind the scenes when maybe our literal eyes don't really see it, and we don't understand what's going on, but God's always working behind the scenes in the position where we may not be able to pick up on it, but God's there, and we just have to put our trust in Him on that. Our memory verse is Psalms 37:5. Commit thy way unto the Lord, trust also in Him, and He shall bring it to pass. So that's the memory verse that I know that Joseph did exactly that. He committed his way unto the Lord, or otherwise how could he have endured some of the things that he endured without being, and I'm sure he was discouraged to a point, but it was always to the point that, okay, yeah, I may be discouraged, but I still going to keep my eyes on God. I'm going to read a junior emphasis. It's not in your quarterly there. And it says, the famine came just as God had warned. Food could not be found in Egypt. Food could only be found in Egypt, where Joseph had been storing it. Joseph's brothers are at his mercy. However, they do not know that the man in charge is their brother Joseph, the one they had sold. They are not aware that their very lives now depend upon the kindness and mercy of the very one the very one they hated and sold into slavery. Just like we despised Christ, He's the very one that can show kindness and mercy. And that's who we had no use for, was Christ. But we have to come to Him. And therefore, Joseph, being a type of Christ to his brothers, was something. And Joseph all the while through that, yeah, he did. And as we read our lesson, yes, he spoke roughly to them sometimes. But it was to get their attention more than it was like, hey, I'm in charge. That's not what Joseph thought. Hey, I'm in charge. I've got the control over you. No, he did not think that. But I think a lot of times when he spoke roughly to them, it was just to get their attention and all. So we'll get started in reading here, Genesis 42:1. Now when Joseph saw that there was corn Jacob, when Jacob, their father, saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his fathers, why do ye look one upon another? And he said, behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get you down thither, and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die. That sounds like a pretty dire need, that it was either food or nothing. And a human body can't live on this nothing. There's dirt out there. There's but we can't eat dirt. But there is product down there in Egypt. And Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy corn in Egypt. But Benjamin, this was Joseph's full brother, Jacob sent not with his brethren, for he said, lest peradventure mischief befall him. And the sons of Israel, or Jacob, came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor over the land. Don't you remember? Pharaoh put him as the governor, as the controller, as the, like I mentioned, I think last Sunday, kind of the Secretary of Commerce, taking care of everything. And he put him over the line. And he it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. Remember the dream? Remember that? Doesn't that kind of turn a light bulb on there? And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, Hence come ye. And they said, From the land of Canaan, to buy food. And Joseph knew his brother, but they knew not him. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and said unto them, Ye are spies, to see the nakedness of the land. Ye are come. And they said unto him, Nay, no, my Lord, they were saying, but to buy food. That's our strict business, is just to buy food, is what they're saying. Buy food, are thy servants come, he said. We are all one man's son. We are true men. Thy servants are no spies. They're trying to convince him that they wasn't spies. He knew that. But they didn't know him. And so, anything can happen when you go to a strange place, And he said unto them, Nay, but to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they said, Thy servants are 12 brethren. And then how many was there? There was only 10 there. Okay, let's do some explaining, kind of Joseph said. The sons of one man in the land of Canaan, and behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not. In other words, one has already passed on, is out of the scene. He's dead, or they're presumed dead. Only they were speaking to that one and didn't know it. So sin has repercussions. Always, sin has repercussions. Consequences is maybe a better word. And things that we do have consequences, even when it's not even sin. Things that we do have consequences, and things happen because of what we do a lot of time. Sometimes it's for the good. As a farmer goes out and plants crops, well, there's going to be consequences. There's going to be maybe a good crop, maybe a bad crop, maybe not a crop at all because they didn't take care of it, didn't water it, didn't till it. And that's the same way it is in our Christian life. What we do have consequences. Okay, I'm going to read what the commentator says here on those verses, but that was a thought that just kind of come to me there. Joseph knew his brothers. Among those from other land who came to buy corn from Joseph were his 10 older brothers from Canaan. Jacob, their father, said, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Go and buy for us, that we may live and not die. Everybody has a tendency to live. Everybody wants to live. Even when people are a lot of times on their deathbed, they still want to live. And that's human nature. That's human nature. And so they were trying to make provisions for themselves so that they could live, because it wasn't just them, it was also their children and grandchildren that they were responsible for. However, he would not let the youngest boy, Benjamin, go with the 10. He feared that some accident would happen to him, as it did with Joseph. That's what he was told. And we know, we've already read the story ahead, and we know that did not happen, but that's what Jacob is still assuming has happened. When the brothers came to Joseph, the governor with power next to Pharaoh, they bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not of him. They did not recognize him. He had changed his appearance. It had been several years, and they did not recognize their own brother. Joseph's mind leaped back to the years ago when he dreamed of his brother's sheaves bowing down to his sheaves, which was one of the first lessons that we read in the quarterly. That's found in Genesis 27:7. That dream was coming true now because God had sent it. You know, that's one way that we can tell whether a prophet is telling the truth or not. Did it come true? You know, I think that's one way that during Paul's time, Agabus predicted or prophesied of I think it was a drought. I believe is what it was. It came true. And then later on, he prophesied that Paul was going to be taken bound. And that hadn't happened yet, but later on it did. So we know that Agabus was a prophet of God because of what his prophesies was, and that they came true. Joseph thought of a way to test his brothers. He would find if they had become any better since they sold him. He accused them of being spies. He said they only came to see how poor Egypt was. No, they said, the 10 brothers, we are true men. We came to buy food. We are not spies. Don't you know they had to do some convincing? Don't you know that their heart just kind of dropped, when they were accused of that? Here we are, innocent men, At the time, they're innocent of what they're being guilty of. But, think about the problems that they caused poor little Joseph back years before. They're starting to reap the consequences of it. They told him who they were. They are 12 brethren. One is not, or is dead. They met Joseph. Moreover, the youngest, Benjamin, was at home with his father, and Benjamin was the only other full brother of Joseph. They were, them two, help me out here, them two was the son of Rachel. Okay, all right, I get them mixed up and the women mixed up, but I'm getting nods. Yeah, I'm right this time, so I'm going to take that as being it. But the others was from the other women that was involved there. Okay, I'm going to read 3 verses, 14, 15, and 16. It's not in your quarterly there, but I'm going to go ahead and read them because it's just a continuation of what I've already read there. And Joseph said unto them, that it is that I speak unto you, saying, ye are spies. Hereby ye shall be proved. By the life of Pharaoh ye shall not go forth hence, except your youngest brother come hither. Can you imagine what them other boys said? Dad didn't send the youngest brother because of what happened to Joseph, and now this guy is wanting us to bring him. Send one of you and let him fetch your brother, and ye shall be kept in prison, and your words may be proved, whether there be any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh shall ye surely ye are spies. Now that's what Joseph said. He knew the difference, but he was just testing them. And God tests us as we go in our Christian life. That there is many tests and trials. How many here does not ever have a test or a trial or a temptation? We all have that. And you know, that helps us to become stronger for God. Now we'll pick up at verse 17 in your quarterly. And he put them all together into ward 3 days, all 10 of the brothers there. And Joseph said unto them the 3rd day, This do and live, for I fear God. You know, Joseph was always faithful to say that. You know, always put God first. And he's saying here, I fear God. When he got ready to interpret the dream of the butler and the baker, he always told both of them, he says, it's God that has the answer to this dream that you have. When Pharaoh had his dream on the 7 years of bad weather and the 7 years or 7 good years and then the 7 bad years, Joseph told him the same thing. It's God that has the interpretation. It's not me, but it's God. Verse 19, If ye be true men, let one of your brethren be bound in the house of the prison. Go ye carry corn for the famine of your houses. But bring your youngest brother unto me. So shall your words be verified, and ye shall not die. And they did so. Joseph demands they bring Benjamin. Joseph told his brothers he would prove whether their words were true or not. He would keep the rest in prison until one went and brought Benjamin. If he did not bring him, he would know they were spies. Then he put them in prison. After 3 days, he said he would keep only one of them and let the other 9 go back, in other words. The others could take corn to their families so they would not starve. And the thing that I've already pointed out here, and the thing that the commentary brought out here is, for I fear God, said Joseph. And you know, that's good words for us. Not just words, but actually do it. I fear God. You know, not with a scary fear, but with a fear of awe of God. That's what we need to be. You know, if you're a sinner, yeah, you're going to be scared of God. But you know, if you're a Christian, you fear God in a way of awe or of glory or of authority, and that's who we want to follow. That's who we desire to follow in our life there. Verse 21, and they said one to another, we are very guilty concerning our brother. They're starting to reap what they sowed way back several years ago there. In that we saw the anguish of his soul, talking about Joseph. And can you imagine him being put in that pit? I don't want to be put in that pit. Come on, brothers. I don't want to be put in the pit. What'd they do? They put him in it anyway. Then when they pulled him out, well, Joseph thought, oh, well, good. Now they've kind of come to their senses. No, they're going to sell him to a group of people that's going to take him a long ways away. And when he finds out that, think of that begging that he done for his life on that, you know. Well, that's what they are starting to see then. When he besought us, they said, and we would not hear. Therefore is this distress come upon us. And Reuben, who was Reuben? He was the oldest of all of them. He was the firstborn. Answered them, saying, Spake I not unto you, saying, Do not sin against the child, and ye would not hear. Remember, Reuben did did stand up for him. You know, Reuben did stand up for him. Reuben's telling us, now we kind of wish that we would have went my way, you know. Well, you know, it was all God's plan, saying, do not sin against the child, and ye would not hear. Therefore, behold also, his blood is required. Even though I didn't stand up hard enough, his blood's required of me also, along with the other 9, is what he's kind of saying. And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spake unto them by an interpreter. In other words, Joseph was using an interpreter all the while, but he could understand because he was Hebrew, and they were speaking Hebrew, you know. But Joseph spoke in Egyptian. I don't know what the language is in Egyptian, but it's the Egyptian language. And using the interpreter, that interpreter would interpret it to the Hebrew, to his brothers. And then they would speak and go back through. You know how that works there. And they, because he spoke there. And verse 24, and he turned himself about from them and wept, and returned to them again and communed with them, and took from them Simon and bound him before their eyes. Now, who was Simon? I think he was the second born, is who he was. So, you know, Reuben, he did not take Reuben being the firstborn. You would think he would take Reuben the firstborn, but Reuben did actually show mercy to him. So he went to Simon then. The guilt of the brothers. Joseph did not tell his brothers he could speak Hebrew. They thought he could not understand them. The brothers thought that Joseph couldn't understand him because he was using an interpreter. Why would he use an interpreter if he could understand us, you know? So, and probably didn't cross their minds. But they didn't think he could understand. They said to one another, we are guilty about Joseph. You know, don't you know that touched Joseph's heart? We are guilty. They're still thinking about Joseph and what happened to Joseph. We are guilty because of Joseph, the very guy that they're talking to. We saw how badly he felt. That's what they're saying. We saw how he begged us. We would not listen. That is why this trouble has come to us. That's what their conclusion was. I told you not to sin against him, says Reuben. You know, Reuben tells them that. And I'd say the other 9 would have said, yeah, Reuben, you had the right idea. But, you know, we're really in a pickle, so to speak. Joseph heard. He went away and cried. And then he came back and tied Simon, or Simeon, I don't know how you pronounce that, while they watched and put him in prison. The sin of the brothers was still giving them trouble. Sin always brings trouble. Sin always brings trouble. Sin will also bring consequences. And the consequences is trouble, is what it all stems down to. One bad trait of human nature is the disposition to shift blame upon others. That is. How many people out in the world will make a mistake? Oh yeah, it's my fault, you know. Or how many people out in the world will make a mistake? Well, it's because of so-and-so. You hear that all the time. It's this person. It's that person. It's one thing. Children. We got 2 teachers here. Children. Did you do that? Oh no, little Johnny was the one. Or no, little Johnny made me do it. Or, you know, it don't get any different when you get older. People does the same thing. Same thing. Some children are not trained to bear responsibility for their acts. You see that all the time. All the time. But are allowed to go their way, leaving their mistakes to be cleared up by someone else. Adults is just as guilty. Very much so. See how little children and adults act a lot alike? And you know, when adults does that, well, what are you teaching the little ones? Well, that's what you're teaching them. And they pick up on that very quickly. Yeah. Joseph's brothers seem to have asked first, what have we done that caused this trouble? They found the fault in themselves. Their guilt brought their distress. Well, that's one good thing about that. Jacob must have taught them right. Hey, if you do something right, or if you do something wrong, own it. You know, if you do something right, you always want to own that. But then when something's wrong, why, let's blame this guy or that guy or this situation. Their guilt brought their distress. This confusion to themselves was the first step toward confession to God and to the injured ones. To be saved, we must first acknowledge ourselves to be sinners. And that's so true. That's so true. You know, when I was in sin and conviction came upon me, I had to realize that, hey, I can't do nothing about this. There's nothing I can do with my sin that can clear things up. The only thing I can do is fall before God and say, God, here I am. You're the one that can clean me up. A disposition to bear responsibility for our acts makes this accomplishment much easier. Training our children to accept the results of their acts and not to shift blame for them will help them to open their hearts to repentance. For 20 years and more, Joseph's brothers had carried guilty consciences. Each one of them had carried that. They had hated Joseph, sold him, and lied about it to their father. Not just one sin, and that's exactly what will happen. If you commit one sin, the next one's easier, and the next one's on its way. And you will commit that one, and then the next one's a lot easier, and it's on its way, and you will commit that one, and it just keeps snowballing. Yes, you hear them talking about a slippery slope. That's what happens. They had done it to rid themselves of the annoyance of Joseph. That little annoyingness, snotty-nosed brother of ours, you know. That's probably what they thought, you know. But did they really get rid of him? They reckoned foolishness. They had exchanged an annoyance for the bitterness and fear of guilt. That's what they exchanged that for. Nothing else can give the pain which a guilty conscience does. Isn't it nice to have a clear conscience? Remember when you were in sin. Remember when you did something wrong and maybe your mom and daddy didn't even know about it, you know. But it burned within your heart or within your soul or within you. Boy, I hope they don't ever find that out. And you think, oh, hey, it's all over with. And just a little bit later, boy, I hope they don't ever find that out. It's always a burning in there. And you know, God's faithful to us to be able to do that, to keep that up, you know. We don't like it at the time, but God's faithful that He keeps that on our heart there. Nothing can remove it but repentance and washing in the blood of Christ. That's what clears your conscience up. Is come and fall before the Lord and get everything straightened up. And you feel so clean, so like you're walking on air, or that's the way it happened to me. And I'm sure you might be able to describe it in another way, but it's a feeling that you never had before. That's what happens. Okay, Genesis 42 and 25 there. Then Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn and to restore every man's money into his sack and to give them provisions for the way. And thus did he unto them. And they laid their asses with corn and departed thence. And as one of them opened his sack to give his ass, help me out with that. Provender. Provender. Okay? In other words, that is food for that animal. That's what it is. In the end, he espised, and I think I'm saying that right. I can't hardly mispronounce that, can you? That word meaning discovered his money, for behold, it was in the sack's mouth. Who would have thought that the money would be back in the sack? The way that guy talked to us, it's a wonder he didn't charge us 3 times. But no, he charged us a certain amount. We gave him the money. He put the money right back in their sack. And here we got the money. Uh-oh, he's going to be after us. That's probably the next thing that entered their mind. And this one, the one that discovered it, and he said unto his brother, my money is restored, and lo, it is even in my sack. And their heart failed them, and they were afraid, saying one to another, what is this that God hath done unto us? Who are they blaming? God? Who done the bad actions 20 years before? It wasn't God. Oh yeah, God planned it that way, but they were the ones that did the stuff.
That's like a big stick God was using to punish them for what they did.
Don't you see how their conscience was really bothering them? How their conscience was really bothering them. Now, and like I said, when your conscience bothers you, what happens? You want to blame somebody else. They didn't blame each other. I mean, they probably did that, but they went as far as blaming God even. And you know, God gets blamed for a lot of things and gets credit for the good things that he does, gets very little credit for it. Have you ever noticed that? That's exactly what's happening here. And they came unto Jacob their father unto the land of Canaan, and told him all that befell upon them, saying, the man who is the Lord of the land spake roughly to us, and took us for spies of the country. And he said unto him, and we said unto him, the brothers said unto Joseph, is who it was, to that man that they were talking about, we are true men. We are no spies. We be 12 brethren, sons of a father. One is not, and the youngest, Benjamin, is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. So there was 10 of them, remember. And the man, the Lord of the country, said unto us, hereby shall I know that ye are true men. Leave one of your brethren here with me, and take food for the famine of your household, and be gone. And bring your youngest brother unto me. Now they're telling Jacob this. Then shall I know that ye are no spies, but that ye are true men. So will I deliver you your brother, and ye shall traffic in the land. Traffic in the land. We don't use that word in this respect too much, but it's to buy and sell is what it's talking about. And it came to pass as they emptied their sacks that behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. Not only just the one, but all 10 of them had the money in their sack. And when both they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. Can you just imagine? Can you just imagine what went through their minds? And Jacob their father said unto them, Me have ye, and help me out here, bereaved? And that word means to deprive or rob, is what that word means. Of my children, he says. Joseph is not, Simeon is not, and ye will take Benjamin away. All these things are against me. Boy, that put poor Jacob in a predicament there. You know it? Do I send Benjamin back so that Simeon be released, or am I going to lose? I don't know which one. I don't know which one to do. I don't know what to do. You know, he's in a predicament. Let's just leave it at that. Well, somebody speaks up. Reuben, the firstborn. You know, the one that really actually spoke up for Joseph at the time that they sold him there. Spake unto his father, saying, Slay my 2 sons if I bring him not to thee. Talking about Benjamin. If I don't bring Benjamin back, you can slay my 2 sons. Wow, what a commitment he done there. Deliver him unto my hand, and I will bring him to thee again. Father, I will bring him back. And he said, My son shall not go down with thee, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If mischief befall him by the way in the which ye go, then shall ye bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with corn, and the money was restored. Then into each man's sack went the money he had paid. He gave them provisions for the way, for the trip back home. He gave them that. You know, they probably didn't even buy that. They probably was just going to, use what they had. But he provided them with provisions even. And you know, God always supplies us extra. How many of us has gotten an extra blessing, so to speak? You know, almost every day we get an extra blessing from God. You know, are we thankful for it? Only you can answer that. Just answer it yourself. Only you can answer that. Are we thankful for it? Well, you know, this is what Joseph was doing to his brothers there. He gave them provisions for the way, for the trip back home. Joseph showed his love for his brothers. Joseph showed his love for his brothers. You know, he was in an authority that he could have done anything he wanted with them 10 boys. There wouldn't have been I don't think there would have been a question asked. Do you think so? Do you agree with me on that? That he could have done anything to them 10 boys. He could have killed them if he wanted to, according to the law of the land. Now we know that wasn't God's intention, and he would have been accused there in God's way. But you know, according to the law of the land, he could have done anything he wanted to there. But what did Joseph do? He showed love. We as Christians ought to be like Joseph and show love to people. I don't care if it's your brother, if it's your sister, if it's the people you love, if it's your neighbor, if it's people that maybe has done something wrong to you, people that you just don't get along with, we need to show love. People that hate us, we even still need to show love. People that we don't agree with, and you know, that it's okay to have disagreements, but you know, we still need to show love for them people. That's very important. He did not agree with his brothers. He was treated badly by his brothers. And what did he show? A little old four-lettered word, Love, that is tremendously big in meaning. Oh. I've lost my place here. Oh, well, on the way home, one of them found the money in his sack, and then they were afraid. They knew that the same way, they knew that some way God had done this. But why? What did it mean? You know, their recent difficulties joined with their guilty consciences to cause apprehension. You know, here they are, blaming God again when it was their own actions there. The brothers returned home then. When they reached home, they told their father all that had happened. Woo, what an experience that was. I bet they was never so glad to see home in all their life. You know it? Wow, that was quite a trip. It's good to be back home. But you know, we got a brother still yet down there. And you know, we got to take that little one with us before we can get even see the other brother. So, you know, and Dad's not going to be happy with us on that. You know, that's some of the things that might have went through their minds. When they reached home, they told their father all that had happened. When they emptied their sacks, each man found his money. Neither they nor their father could tell what it meant. They were afraid. They told Jacob they must take Benjamin, the little one that he would not let go with them, to Egypt. Had to take him. Jacob said Benjamin could not go. He put his foot down. He could not go. Joseph is not, and now Simeon is not. And you're wanting to take Benjamin, which will not be, so to speak. But Reuben spoke up. Reuben said he would take care of Benjamin. If he did not bring him back, Reuben's two sons should be killed. Still, Jacob said Benjamin could not go. Now, what will happen? Okay, next Sunday you'll have to come back and see what happens from there. If I want to go back and look at the memory verse before we close here. Commit thy way unto the Lord. Commit thy way unto the Lord. That's the best way. Always get direction from the Lord before you do anything. It is the most important thing that you can do. You know, if a person's unsaved, now I'm speaking to people over the air, it's being recorded, and if you happen to be unsaved, the requirement of you is to turn your heart and life over to Jesus. That's already a thing that is automatic right there. And then as you live for God, make sure that you get God's will before you do anything. It's important. What kind of work you're going to be doing. What kind of a person you're going to be marrying. What the decisions that needs to be made, Lord, help me to make them that day. It's very important. It's very important. And then it goes on and says, trust also in Him. Put your trust in Him. If God gives you the answer, trust in that answer, because He'll never fail you. And then it goes on and says, and He shall bring it to pass. What is in store for you, He will bring it to pass to you. And so, you know, that's pretty much the way Joseph lived his life. He lived his life according to that. And that verse was not written. He did not read that out of the Bible. That verse had not even been written yet. But you know, Jacob, his father, instilled that in his mind, and he did exactly that. One more thing. Got the theme. Don't be afraid to trust an unknowing future to an unknown future to an all-knowing God.
Amen.
I'll leave it with you at that. Amen.